Hi, I'm Jay, and I often love to have conversations with people about living your best life. One of the things I wanted to talk to you today about is just suicide because, we can live our best lives, but we can't deny that death is a part of life. And in death, suicide is one of those things that a lot of times we pay most attention to when there's a hot topic in the news with a celebrity or someone famous. But it is something that is happening every day. And I feel like there's obviously never enough conversation about it because I believe if we had more open conversations, then we could close the gap some more. And so I've had the honor of working with people personally, professionally, through volunteer work who are either having thoughts and feelings of suicide or who are trying to recover from the death of a loved one who has taken their own life. And so I just wanted to share some things that I've learned along the way that I think could help. It may help someone who doesn't necessarily know. One of the things is that if you think you hear or see something that doesn't strike you as right with a person, in terms of when they're normally in a good state of mind or even okay, to ask about it. A lot of times when people start expressing things in terms of what they're feeling, any struggle that they're having, a lot of times we shy away from the conversation. And I would just advise you, if you're able, stay with the conversation and continue to encourage the person to speak. Don't always try to, give advice. Don't try to cheer the person up. Don't deny them what they say that they feel. If they say, I feel like it's the end of the world, or I feel like I can't go on, or this is just too much, a lot of times we want to pep people up and cheer them on, and yes, you can, but you have to very much respect that that person is acknowledging for you what they feel, and you're not feeling it for them. You don't know, in theory and in concept, a 20-pound bag may be nothing for you to carry, but for somebody else, it can be way too much. And that's what a lot of times depression looks like for people, is that something that is reasonable for somebody else to deal with, one person may not be able to. So we just really have to be respectful and to create an open space by allowing the person to talk about their feelings. If you don't think you're the right person to listen to that, then try to get someone who can listen to that, who can give that person an open space. But don't deny them how they feel, and don't try to move away from the conversation. The other thing is, when people have committed suicide, sometimes I've heard people say, "Oh, how selfish," because they feel like, "Oh, well, didn't he think about the fact that he had small children, or doesn't he realize that there are people here who love her or loved him?" And it's absolutely something that people think about, but I always challenge people to think. Imagine if you think about your family, your friends, or whoever it is, or whatever it is that you have going on in your life that means something to you. And even though you're aware of all of that, you still feel like what you're dealing with is too much. So it's not selfish. It just is a spotlight on how much that person was really struggling. And a lot of times people have already held on for as long as they possibly could, but they haven't expressed it, so you don't really know it. A lot of times people, I think that the one of the things that I found is that it's not so much that people want to die why they commit suicide, but it really is more that they don't know how to live either with the pain or the circumstances anymore. And so they struggle, and a lot of times, sometimes people are taking their lives, and it's out of nowhere to people around them. No one saw it coming. But there are some people who struggle for a long time, and they will seek therapy for years. Sometimes people will take medication to try to help with whatever depression or mental or emotional struggles that they're having. And sometimes people try to remove themselves from the circumstances or make changes to the situation. And whatever that thing or those things are, it's different for everybody. Um, and so people can do all of those things, but still find themselves eventually tired of trying things. And when they start thinking about, well, what can I do? What will give me peace or relief from having to deal with this every day. It colors everything in their lives. Everything becomes kind of clouded with these feelings that they have. The thing that comes up for them is death. And it's not, again, that they want to die, but a lot of times people want to escape. People want to get away from whatever it is that is not allowing them to live the life that is fulfilling enough for them to stick with it. And so in that way, I would say to respect a person's choice. I'm not saying at all that you should be okay with someone who wants to take their own lives, and I'm not saying let it happen at all. I definitely say try to get the person some help and try to be as supportive to them as you can. But a lot of times we don't realize that we're not respectful of a person's feelings. And a lot of times that can send people into their own shells or cause them to not want to come out. So people wear the mask. They go around, they pretend that they're okay. They don't talk about the feelings. They try to ignore it themselves. But I think if we just have more conversations and let people know, I've talked about a safe place. Let people know it's a safe place. You can talk about that, and I'm not going to, take extreme measures to make you regret that you opened up to me about something that you feel. The other thing that I realized is that a lot of times when I said people are trying to hold on for as long as they can, one of the things that does stop people a lot of times is that they don't know, or should I say they're afraid that if they try to take their own lives, that they may not even be successful in that. So can you imagine that you have either a pain, a struggle, a situation that to you is so great that you feel like you don't want to live anymore. But on top of that, you're trying to figure out, what you can do that will be successful in taking your own life. People are afraid that if I shoot myself, then what if I'm paralyzed and I still have to live, and now I have to live and be paralyzed? Or if I take medication and I end up in a coma, or, they worry about if I do take my own life, somebody's going to have to find me. And so, I don't want to leave that impression for my child or my mother or my spouse to walk in and have to find my body. So people struggle even in trying to figure out, how they would do it. But, it's not that people are usually just not taking into consideration all these things. A lot of times it just becomes a lot more stressful. So I encourage you to talk to people, allow them to be open and share what they feel, and to listen, and try to listen without judgment, to respect their choice. If they say that's what they feel like, again, not so much trying to talk them out of it, but to really instead go with them in the conversation and in actions of safety, to ask them, well, how would you do it? If a person says, well, I would jump off a bridge, are there any bridges nearby? Is that a realistic thing? If a person says, oh, well, I would probably shoot myself, or I would hang myself, well, how much do they have the means to do that? If a person doesn't own a gun, how would you get a gun? You have to have these conversations with people. And then for those people who are dealing with the fact that someone around them, someone that they were close to or that they knew, has taken their own life, it is not easy, and so I don't say it lightly, but try to free yourself. A lot of times people feel guilty because they say, I didn't know that this person was feeling, so down, or I didn't know that, they were either depressed or that they were suicidal, and they feel like it's their fault. But I would say to try to free yourself, because every person has their own choice. And you have to understand that, unfortunately, in our humanity, we are limited in our power. And I think that's sometimes one of the biggest struggles that we have, is that we can love someone. We could want to give them everything in the world that we have, but sometimes we are limited in what we can do for a person. And so if you did what you could when you did know, or if you didn't know, then you can't beat yourself up about it forever. I too would say then to try to get yourself some help so you could talk that out, so that you can at least lighten feeling that sense of a responsibility, that either you failed somebody, or that had you been there or something, they would not have done it But the reality is, somebody did feel that way. And unfortunately, they were able to act on it. Um, but to just understand that the person made that choice because the burden was too great for them to live on. So I know I've taken a long time. I usually try to be quicker in my sessions when I speak about things, but to me, this is one of the things that I'm passionate about, and it is worthy of the time. And I just hope that it will maybe make the difference for somebody who is having thoughts or feelings. And if you're struggling, please know that there's help out there. Um, Either professional help, there are hotlines you can always call, Samaritans, or other emergency hotlines that are available 24 hours a day to just talk to someone and let them know how you feel. But again, that is what, therapy is for, to speak to someone who is non-judgmental, who will try to help you in the best way they can without pushing their own agenda on you. So I hope that this was helpful to just at least one person. And if you have questions about suicide or want to talk about anything, I always make myself available. I'm here. And I hope that it is just one of the things that we can continue to talk about that can make the difference in the people and the lives of people that we love. In the meantime, be well.